Hello lovely people, it's about to be the most wonderful time of the year, Nonfiction November.
Sophie Vlogs.
So what is Nonfiction November, I hear you cry? I'm going to leave a link to Olive's announcement video down below so that if you aren't familiar with Nonfiction November, you can just watch that and that'll give you all the information you need, but the basic gist is it's just an idea to get people reading a little bit more nonfiction than they would. So if you don't read any nonfiction, reading one nonfiction would be fine. If you read lots of nonfiction, then have at it some more. I read probably, I would say about 60-40, 60% fiction, 40% non-fiction. So I do read a fair bit of non-fiction, but I think that fiction probably beats it out. So what I've decided to do is I'm just going to set myself a book to read for each non-fiction prompt. And then if I get some extra books in, then that's great, and I'll talk about them in my wrap-up. We're just going to see how it goes. I'm being very chill about it this year. So there are 4 words that have been given as prompts, and I've got a book per prompt, so I'm just going to dive into it. Starting with, I think the book that I was most excited to read, and then I spotted a different book, and I was like, but I'm also very excited for that one. An exciting book. So the first prompt is design. I've gone for The Golden Thread, How Fabric Changed History by Kassia and Clair. Number 1, the cover design is beautiful. But then also, like, fabric is a key part. When I think design, a lot of the time I think of, like, art and fashion and stuff. So, like, fabric obviously is key to, like, fashion design. But this just seems really interesting to me because this is looking... the little subtitle, How Fabric Changed History. So, you know, like, the role of textiles, the role of thread, the role of different fashion. I really enjoy these sorts of, like, social history things whereby you are looking at history and stuff like that, but you're looking at it through a lens that's somehow, like, showing you about, like, how we as people have developed, and I think that fabric's a really interesting lens to view that through. So I've been wanting to prioritise this one for a while, and this seems like the perfect opportunity, so I'm very excited for this one. Next up is the prompt voice. I initially was thinking of, like, an autobiography because I was like, autobiographies are, like, someone's voice talking to you, telling you about their lives. And then I was lent this book someone was just like, oh, I think you should read this book, I think you'd like it. And it's perfect for this prompt. It's Tom Jones' autobiography. Tom Jones, over the top and back. You don't have to like Tom Jones' music, but you cannot deny that the guy has got a voice. So I'm going to read this. I'm kind of looking forward to this one because I think it's going to be really interesting because Tom Jones, he didn't really make it in the music industry until he was like 26 or something. And so he had to, like, and I think he became a dad quite young. So I'm kind of weirdly interested to read about, like, the earlier part of his life because he had to, like, work for a living. It's not like he, like, got famous really young and blah, blah, blah. Like, he had, like, jobs. He worked. And I'm interested to read about that, as well as being interesting to find out how he did break into the music industry and if he has any, like, tales of shenanigans, stuff like that. So this should be quite fun, I think. Prompt number 3 is true, and so I've gone for Forbidden Lives, LGBT Stories from Wales by Norena, Shopland. I think that the way my brain worked is that this is telling true stories of people's lives that have been hidden, that have had to hide themselves because they couldn't be open and out and stuff like this. So I'm hoping this is going to be a really interesting look into specifically, like, Welsh LGBT history and just, like, learning a bit more truth behind that and these people and their lives and stuff. So I'm familiar with a couple of people that are mentioned in it because, like, for example, like Edward II, I know him. Gwen John, I know her, like Jan Morris, stuff like that. So, but there's also a number of people mentioned that I'm not familiar with. So I'm really excited to just sort of, like, dip into this one and get a really better idea of some of Wales's LGBT history, I think. The final prompt is the one I struggled with the most, and I don't think I'm alone in that. The final prompt was sport. I'm not a very sporty person. I'm recording this after having just watched rugby, so, like, maybe that's a contradiction, but I don't read a lot about sport. So what I've gone for is Goddesses, Whores, Wives and Slaves, Women in Classical Antiquity by Sarah B. Pomeroy, because I don't know if you can tell that these, some women doing some sports, so it counts. This one, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get through all the way. The reason I picked this up is because when I did my joint degree, one of my sides was classical studies, and so this was a text that I drew on a lot when I was doing essays, because if you're ever doing essays, anything to do with women in classical antiquity, this is a really great source to draw upon. So it's an academic text. So I'm going to dip in and out of chapters. I'm not necessarily planning, if I don't read the whole thing in the month of November, I'm okay with that, because I would rather take my time with it and actually like take in the information than be like, read it like a book. That's a silly thing, it is a book. You know what I mean, like from cover to cover in one go. I'm going to dip in and like absorb the information, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's it. Those are just like the 4 books that I've definitely set myself. I'm going to try and pepper in more non-fiction if I can. I'm just going to really see how it goes, to be honest with you. Are you taking part in Nonfiction November? If so, I would love to hear, have you posted TBRs? I'd love to watch them. I love this time of year because it's a really great time to get recommendations for non-fiction books, because I see everyone else's TBRs and I see the way they've interpreted the prompts and stuff, and it's just like super exciting. So yeah, I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on these. Otherwise, I'm going to do a video probably at the end of November, wrapping up my thoughts on these books. But yeah, I hope you have a really lovely day, and I'll see you next time for something different.